Liquid IV with 11 grams of sugar compared to Prime's 2 grams. Liquid IV has 870 milligrams of electrolytes, and the Prime stick has 871 milligrams of electrolytes.
And that was intentional. Look, we're this much better by 1 milligram. This is not the same stratification of electrolytes. So when he lumps them together as if it is an electrolyte is an electrolyte, it's like, do you know the composition of sweat that even comes out of your fucking face when you're exercising, bro? I don't think so. I think you think that this is all the same. And for you to go at Liquid IV, ready to like chop their head off when you don't even know what the difference is and why it would be useful to maybe have some sodium in there, is actually kind of laughable, to be honest. Sup guys, Derek, moreplaysmoredates.com. Today we're going to be reacting to Logan Paul going after the heads of a few head honcho top dogs in the electrolyte industry. He has been pretty outspoken about how great Prime is. Prime's fucking everywhere. KSI and him are shoving it down your goddamn throat, and you better like it because it is the top quality, tip-top shit, the best influencer brand of all time, bro. And, you know, they're killing it. They're smoking Gatorade, they're smoking Element, they're smoking Liquid IV, like... who's who in the game, bro? It's just Prime. That's all you gotta fucking know, is what they want you to think, and is what they very, very strongly portray in their videos. But oftentimes I feel without the science to actually back up their statements. So Logan is the supposedly founder of Drink Prime, at least that's what he represents himself as does KSI. But if you actually dig further, they are not actually majority shareholders. As far as I know, they are essentially faces of the company that have some equity, but at a minority stake, as far as I know. I think cumulatively they have a majority, but they would not be able to singularly make any decisions that influence the actual trajectory of the company, nor do they have any influence on formulation, manufacturing, anything other than being like a super affiliate essentially who has a big chunk of equity, as far as I know. That's totally fine though. That is like, you know, you need business partners who are savvy to take you to the top in areas that you are either incapable of hiring out for or otherwise don't have the experience in. Like, you can't be expected to do everything, especially if your main draw is you as an influencer, and Logan is ultimately an entertainer at the end of the day. Do you think he knows shit about electrolyte formulas? He's probably learned quite a bit actually in the last year, I'm sure, but ultimately he's not the brains behind the operation. He is the pretty face who goes out and does backflips and shit and goes to, you know, football matches and then, you know, acts, you know, super fucking enthused about what's going on. And maybe he is, you know, I wouldn't mind, you know, sponsoring a fucking sick football team, of course. But ultimately he is a entertainer and has a product to sell and does a very, very exceptional job at it. And that is why he is one of the two guys who gets a big chunk of equity in a company that has a significant amount of firepower behind it, because that's what he brings to the table. But he's pretty outspoken about the formulations in a way that is very much going after the heads of big top dogs in the industry, like I said. So I want to react to a couple of them because some of the stuff he says very much sounds good on the surface, but is it really justified? Does it really make sense? Because no one really seems to question him. They just think like, oh, Logan knows his shit. He's the owner of this big fucking company. This is how it is. So let's get into it. He compares himself to Gatorade now. Prime versus Gatorade. Today we're going tit for tat, bro. Gatorade, perhaps the biggest company in the world from at least a household name standpoint for electrolyte drinks. When you drink this, you know, you think of when I have a basketball game, you know, Gatorade. When I do this, you know, Gatorade. Like when I used to play in competitive sports back in high school and thereafter, it was always, you know, Powerade and Gatorade were the two. And I always thought of Powerade as like the inferior version of Gatorade, just based on your, you know, the lack of understanding about how any of this shit works other than just prevalence in the industry. Gatorade was like the head honcho. Nowadays, there are more social media based influencer push companies like Liquid IV, Element, etc. But Gatorade is like, I would assume, still has a big fucking chunk of the market share, if not the majority. But let's get into it. Is Prime better than Gatorade?
Blue Prime versus Blue Gatorade. These are all facts. Let's start with sugar. Gatorade has 36 grams of sugar in it as opposed to Prime's 2 grams. That is a lot of sugar compared to not a lot of sugar.
That is true. Fuck ton of sugar. Absolutely.
Gatorade has 140 calories. Look at that. Prime only has 25. We're both electrolyte drinks. Gatorade has 350 milligrams of electrolytes and a bigger bottle, yet Prime doubles it with 825 milligrams of electrolytes. Honestly, there's no comparison.
That's it. That's all you gotta know, bro. So basically, there is a fuck ton more sugar, more calories, which obviously is a consequence of sugar. 4 calories in a gram of carb, like obviously there's also gonna be more calories too. And there's less electrolytes, so case closed, right? But it's interesting because he very much represents this like a blanket statement as if sugar is bad, calories are bad, and stratifying electrolytes, instead of doing that, rather he just lumps them all together as like electrolytes cumulatively, but doesn't mention like what is actually in it. So Gatorade is not a great formula, so I'm not really going to go to bat for it and say it's way better than Prime, because there are different circumstances in which you would want one or the other, to be frank. Like if you want a drink you can just sip throughout the day and is not actually performance based and actually designed for athletes, in my opinion, go with Prime. Is Gatorade the most ideal formula for athletes though? No, but it's not just a fucking potassium ridden, artificially sweetened, sugar tasting drink. Not sugar filled drink, but sugary tasting drink that just tastes good, and that's it. Which more or less is what Prime is. It is not actually a well-crafted formula, in my opinion, for actual athletics, which we'll get into shortly, because Logan decided to go after a company that is actually designed to be used for the purpose that which electrolytes are deployed, liquid IV, which I found baffling that they actually went after them with this as the sales pitch, bro.
All right, we're going 1 for 1. The new Prime Hydration Sticks versus Liquid IV. Liquid IV, 45 calories. Prime Stick, 25. Liquid IV with 11 grams of sugar compared to Prime's 2 grams. Liquid IV has 870 milligrams of electrolytes, and the Prime Stick has 871 milligrams of electrolytes. And that was intentional, so we could literally one-up them. And now for the taste test. Liquid IV it's not bad, but it is a little salty. But Prime is delicious. I'm not kidding, this is so good. And we have coconut water and BCAAs. Liquid IV does not. Oops. To summarize, it's everything you love about the bottled Prime in a convenient stick pack you can take anywhere. Check your local Walmart.
So on the surface, you know, case closed. Prime is clearly better than Liquid IV. And if I was Liquid IV, bro, I don't know if they did a response video. I'm assuming they didn't, because they're probably like a very professional, not confrontational company. But when a Logan Paul with the Prime formula comes after your fucking formula like this, I would be on social media the next day dismantling the goddamn shit out of them. This is the comment section perception of what this was. Major W, KSI. Convenient, delicious, say less. Fire emoji time forwards, Jake Paul. Marketing genius, bro. Waving emoji, phase sensei. I can't find it. Sick. I ain't even get me a single bottle of Prime yet. It's always sold out. I already knew it was gonna be fire and bought a couple boxes yesterday right when they dropped it. As a diabetic, I like how I can drink Prime and not have my blood sugar spike because it's not loaded with carbs. Like 65 carbs for a body armor, and the Prime with the win only has like 25 calories, I assume. Much easier to stay hydrated and love the flavor. Only USA? Still not in India. Get to the fucking India, bro. Get to the UK. Get into Costco. What are you doing? Can't wait not be able to get these. Big W. The sticks are great. Easier to put in my gym bag for sure. So on the surface, you guys are probably like, damn, like what is the problem here? Everything sounds better for Prime. Well, maybe you guys don't think that because like you guys are pretty well versed in formulations at this point if you're even on this channel, I would assume. So let's go tit for tat. You know, he basically likes to do this shit. So Prime, you know, 25 calories versus 45. Is the thing we're concerned about the calorie burden if we are going for an electrolyte formula that is designed for athletics where you are burning up so much energy that perhaps you need fast absorbing carbohydrates to then fuel your workout session? You know, that's kind of up in the air for debate as to which one is generally going to be more reasonably used by most people. Because again, if you're looking for something that just tastes good and to sip on, yeah, obviously lower calorie, probably more ideal. However, if you're an actual athlete who is doing strenuous activity, which even justifies the use of a electrolyte formula to begin with, I'm not saying that's always the case that you need to be a hardcore athlete doing fucking hardcore endurance activity to justify an electrolyte formula at all. But in general, like the formulas are designed for different purposes, evidently, and he is very much misrepresenting what Liquid IV is, in my opinion. So let's go to the Prime site. This is their hydration stick packs. So we look at the formula, 20 calories per stick pack, carbs, 6 grams, 2 grams of sugar. Now we look at the actual breakdown of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, etc. We have vitamin D, nothing, calcium, 7 milligrams, iron, 0, potassium, 700 milligrams. Notable. Vitamin A, 900 micrograms. Vitamin C, 90 milligrams. Vitamin E, 15 mgs. Vitamin B6, 3.4 mgs. B12, 4.8 micrograms. Magnesium, 124 milligrams. So again, the basis of this formula, it's interesting because this is a electrolyte formula, which is 40 milligrams of sodium. So yeah, he mentions how liquid IV tastes very salty. Is Prime more likely to taste better when it's basically, if you flip this formula around, you actually look at the ingredients below here, we have citric acid, coconut water, you keep going, natural flavor, dipotassium phosphate, and you go down the label and you start to see sucralose, bro. An artificial sweetener that is used to flavor pre-workouts, flavor energy drinks, flavor this, flavor that, like something that is going to be sugary tasting without actually being sugar that adds calories. So yeah, obviously it's gonna taste good even at nearly 0 calories when you add a decent amount of sucralose into the mix. So yeah, you can get away with 2 grams of sugar when you have sucralose in there. I'm not saying sucralose is bad, but you have to go back and think, like, what is the intent of the product, and is fair to represent them tit for tat like this when you have a 40 milligram sodium electrolyte blend. We're going to get into the actual requirements of electrolytes shortly and what makes a actual well-rounded product versus this in a sec, but let's continue. So calorie burden. You know, if you have a liquid IV, which is 45, which is not using artificial sweeteners, it's using actual sugar, which is something that can help you replenish glycogen stores when you're doing hard strenuous exercise that might actually justify the use of a 500 milligram sodium dense electrolyte formula. Like maybe, just maybe, it makes more sense when glucose is something that can help facilitate the absorption and utilization of electrolytes. I don't know, right? So let's go back to the video and then continue the points.
We're going 1 for 1, the new Prime hydration stick.
I don't know why you can't fast forward on Instagram. It's fucking absurd.
Versus Liquid IV. Liquid IV, 45 calories. Prime Stick, 25. Liquid IV with 11 grams of sugar compared to Prime's 2 grams. Liquid IV has 870 milligrams of electrolytes, and the Prime Stick has 871 milligrams of electrolytes.
And that was intentional. Look, we're this much better by 1 milligram. This is not the same stratification of electrolytes. So when he lumps them together as if it is an electrolyte is an electrolyte, it's like, do you know the composition of sweat that even comes out of your fucking face when you're exercising, bro? I don't think so. I think you think that this shit is all the same. And for you to go at liquid IV, ready to like chop their head off when you don't even know what the difference is and why it would be useful to maybe have some sodium in there, is actually kind of laughable, to be honest. Like, he goes on to actually criticize them for tasting somewhat salty compared to Prime. Let's continue.
That was intentional so we could literally one-up them. And now for the taste test. Liquid IV it's not bad, but it is a little salty.
So it's not bad because there's sugar in it, but it is salty. You know, maybe because there's half a fucking gram of sodium per serving. Like, I don't know.
But Prime is delicious.
But Prime is delicious because it's just potassium and sucralose. That's the fucking reason, bro. So let's get to the formula again and kind of round this out. So we have, again, the basis of the whole thing is essentially that this is not an actual electrolyte formula, rather it is a potassium drink with sucralose. That is what it is. Like, that's the purpose of Prime. It is something that you can drink on a daily basis as a enjoyable drink. That is what it is. It's not a actual performance-based, athlete-focused electrolyte blend. It is something that you could sip on in class, walking around, whatever, that is nearly void of calories that tastes good. That is what it is. Now, why would you want potassium over this other stuff? It is the electrolyte that is the most neglected, in my opinion. Like, at least from the RDA perspective, when you look at like magnesium, like, yeah, this is something most people are deficient in too, but almost nobody's deficient in sodium. But most people are way off of the 4,700 milligram, like, typical goal of potassium. No one even knows how much they need. It's not crazy to realize why, or it's not, what am I even trying to say? It's no surprise that a lot of people have blood pressure issues when their electrolyte balance is totally fucking out of whack. You have individuals that are salting the shit out of everything. And that's not a bad thing, by the way, if you are mindful of everything else in your lifestyle as well as your diet. However, when you have a just disproportionate amount of sodium, you don't have adequate amounts of magnesium, you don't have adequate amounts of potassium. And again, the potassium burden that you could otherwise get from your diet for optimization is way higher than what most people are getting. Yeah, you can get away with just sipping on potassium drinks pretty much all day within reason and probably achieve a better, more stable electrolyte profile in your diet model. So this is actually, aside from what your argument is if sucralose is healthy or unhealthy, like, this is something that could help you adhere to your calorie deficit probably easier, something that is tasty, and probably hit your potassium intake per day with greater ease, which is something a lot of people really actually need to do. But it's not the electrolyte formula for athletes. This is not focused for athletes and designed for athletes whatsoever with 40 milligrams of sodium. Let's think about here, if we're designing an electrolyte formula, the purpose is hydration. We are trying to achieve a state of like heightened performance through replenishing lost electrolytes that should already be in balance given your diet model too. So let's look at the element or the liquid IV breakdown. We have 500 milligrams of sodium. So when he mentions as a criticism, it tastes kind of salty. It's like, well, good fucking luck getting away from the salty taste when you have over 500 plus milligrams of sodium in a product. Like Element, I believe, is a gram. Liquid IV, 500 milligrams. And you have Prime, which is 40. So no, we're not one-upping them by putting in 871 milligrams. Like, no, you are way the fuck below the threshold, bro. Like, you're way off the mark from something that is effective, in my opinion, for an actual performance formula. So 500 milligrams of sodium. Now, when you look at their actual potassium amount, 370. Like, you could definitely make an argument that maybe that's too low. Maybe that's, maybe that's not enough, whatever. It kind of depends on what your goal is though. Because when we look at the actual breakdown of potassium content versus sodium versus chloride versus magnesium and calcium in the body, when you are sweating it out, like what are you actually excreting out of your goddamn face, your butt cheeks, your goddamn armpits? What are you sweating out when you are exercising? This is a very, very good graphical representation, in my opinion, by Taylor Sherman, as well as Claire Seekin. I'm not gonna be able to say this properly, I apologize. And Shelby Johnson. So here we have the athlete. He is sweating, or she is sweating. The average athlete loses 1 to 3 liters of sweat per hour. Sweat is primarily made up of water, but it also contains electrolytes that have essential roles in the body. So again, it would probably be in our best interest to replace these in the proportions that we're actually sweating them out, you would think, right? Sodium and chloride are the most abundant electrolytes in sweat, with potassium, magnesium, and calcium present in lower amounts. Athlete example, a runner who loses 3 liters of fluid in 1 hour is losing 1,380 to 5,520 milligrams of salt. Sodium, chloride, and potassium work together in complete singularity, completely secluded from one another, where we have a shit ton of potassium and no sodium, not in a fashion where we have 700 potassium and 40 sodium. Like, does this look like the proportion of potassium to sodium that we are losing in our sweat? Like, does this look accurate whatsoever? Does this look representative of what an athlete is actually requiring to reach optimum performance? Fuck no, dude. We have sweat composition in descending order of priority, essentially, with sodium being at the top of the totem pole. We have sodium and chloride and potassium working together to help regulate and maintain fluid balance. Magnesium and calcium are essential for optimal muscle function and play an important role in energy metabolism. Losing as little as 2% of your body weight during a workout can result in decreased aerobic performance. For a 200-pound athlete, that is 4 pounds of sweat lost during a workout. Water and electrolytes should be consumed throughout the day to maintain adequate fluid levels as well as optimal electrolyte levels, if required, based on your actual requirements of your exercise regimen and your diet model, hydration levels, etc. Electrolyte replacement is most important during high intensity training lasting greater than 1 hour. So no, not just like fucking sitting around, not some kid who watches KSI react to videos and shit. I'm not saying they're like bad people necessarily, by the way. Like, KSI seems like a dope dude. Logan has some questionable ethics when it comes to what he sells, but ultimately, like, they are entertaining guys and they're behind a product, but the way they represent it is frankly misleading. Remember to properly hydrate before, during, and after exercise as well. And then they have, examples of potassium-rich foods, magnesium-rich foods, calcium-rich foods, sodium-rich foods. So ultimately, what do we actually need to focus on when we are sweating most? It is going to be sodium chloride, potassium after that, then magnesium almost negligibly, and calcium almost negligibly. But again, ultimately, the sodium density is probably going to be the most indicative of, is this something that's actually representative of being useful for athletic performance? Is this something that is going to be actually useful to a fucking professional football player in the duration the match is, a star player who is sweating their goddamn balls off and is running back and forth across the field and exerting the shit out of themselves? Could they otherwise be making better use of a liquid IV or a Prime hydration stick? I can fucking promise you, bro, they would make better use and perform better using a liquid IV stick than a Prime hydration stick. And that's just factual, bro. No, and yeah, your BCAAs in negligible quantities to spike mTOR when our goal is electrolyte hydration, as well as your What was the other thing he fucking said at the end of it? BCAAs. I find it hilarious too. Like, how disconnected are you from the supplement industry where you call a BCAA a BCAA? I'm not saying that's wrong, by the way. It's just funny how that's his default way of representing what branched chain amino acids are. So, what is it again?
Now for the taste test. Liquid IV it's not bad, but it is a little
I would have fast forwarded to it if I fucking could on Instagram. Sorry.
salty.
Look, it's a little salty, bro.
Prime's delicious. I'm not kidding, this is so good. And we have coconut water and BCAAs, Liquid IV.
Yeah, coconut water. So we have the basis of a potassium-rich, sucralose-enhanced, low-calorie, good tasting, and not useless, by the way, just not made for performance at all, in my opinion. This is something that would be useful to sip on, and ultimately, I bet that's what Prime's focus is to be appealing to make people who think they need electrolytes during their daily sitting in the fucking office when they don't actually need it or whatever, to think they need, you know, this shit, when in reality, you just should be getting it through your actual diet, through, you know, potassium-rich foods, etc. But easier said than done in some cases, understandably so. So ultimately, is this like a piece of shit formula? No. Like, potassium is often deficient in diet models, and I think most people would benefit from getting more. Again, like I said, but do not represent this fucking formula like it's the most best fucking performance-based athletic enhancing formula that you can use and pit it against something like this. It's just not the fucking case, bro. Not the case. And if we ever come out with an electrolyte formula ourselves through Gorilla, it will be very, very much considerate of the shit I just outlined in this video. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. Much appreciated. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Follow me on Instagram, and moreplates.dates. Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. Not BitChute. I don't even know why I said it. It's just part of my shit at this point. Can't get away from it, bro. I'm not even on there anymore. The OGs know why that's even funny. If you want to support the channel, you can check me out. You can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My preventative medicine and hormone replacement therapy platform, Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode pre-workout formulas that design myself from scratch, as well as Gorilla EAAs, which are what you would actually want, not BCAAs, bro. You want EAAs if you want to be getting essential amino acids in a comprehensive fashion for what they would actually be geared towards, as well as in adequate dosages to actually be useful. Because again, the negligible motherfucking quantities of BCAAs in this formula are not satisfactory to achieve what you're trying to get out of the amino acid spectrum, which again are deficient when it's only in BCAA format anyways. But I digress. If you want to check out anything else I'm associated with, it's all in the video description below, as well as the recommended diet model I would suggest for gaining muscle and sports performance whilst being mindful of micronutrient intake and electrolyte balance. So then you probably don't even need to use this shit unless you are a endurance athlete who is otherwise exposing themselves to greater than 1 hour training sessions that are reasonably high intensity. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. Like, subscribe. Talk to you guys later.